The year is 1969. Australia was seen as the heavy favourites in the World Cup qualifying matches against Rhodesia, after 2 matches they remained tied on aggregate, forcing a third playoff match in Mozambique. Australia desperately wanted to make the first World Cup after being crushed by North Korea in the final round of qualifying the previous cycle. Then, a local reporter gives them a tip. They can set the team up with a local witch doctor to curse their opponents. Thinking, why not at this point, a group of players agree, hiring in Nyanga to bury bones by the post of one of the nets, placing a curse on their opponents. And it works. Johnny Warren slotted home the first one, Rhodesia conceded an own goal soon after, and Rutherford put home a third as they dispatched their opposition 3-1. Ready to leave, the teammates met with a request by Nyanga, a $1,000 fee for their services, pretty fair since the curse seemed to have worked. However, because either they did not want to or could not afford it, the fee was not paid. As they left the country, the Nyanga cursed the Australians, leading to decades of pain on the pitch. Like, subscribe, bye. Now in the final round of qualifying, Australia would be given a break as North Korea dropped out, refusing to play in Israel. All Australia had to do is not lose on aggregate to Israel, and they make their first World Cup. They did not beat Israel. Now in 1973, the curse continues as the team actually qualified? No, wait, that can't be right. Yeah, so actually they qualified for the 1974 World Cup, even coming back from 2-0 down against South Korea to force a third game, winning 1-0. So, was the curse beaten? Or was it even real in the first place? Doubts have been placed on the curse, with multiple places saying there was no mention of a witch doctor while in Mozambique. In fact, they even have a believed culprit, one Tom Patrick and Dr. Brian Corrigan. So did the curse actually happen? It's hard to say as they're both defenders and detractors of the myth. However, the validity wouldn't matter much later on, as it would enrapture Australian soccer in the many years of heartache to come. At the 1974 World Cup, the Socceroos would be eliminated in the first round without scoring a goal, losing both to communist and capitalist Germany while drawing with Chile to collect its first ever point at the World Cup. Not a great debut, but something they could look to build upon at the next World Cup. They didn't make the next World Cup. 1978 World Cup qualifying saw them make the final round of qualifying but crash out second to last. 1982 qualifying went even worse, failing to make it out of the first round of qualifying, finishing second to New Zealand. 1986 would be a lot better as Oceania got its own qualifying spot, splitting off from Asia. However, there wouldn't be an automatic qualification spot. If you won the Oceania region, you would need to win a 2-legged intercontinental playoff against a team from a different confederation to make the World Cup. Australia would win their group undefeated against New Zealand and 2 other countries not really part of the region but there for political reasons. They would be paired up against Scotland, now 2 matches away from making a triumphant return to the world stage. They went on to lose 2-0 in Glasgow and failed to materialize anything at home in the second leg, tying 0-0 and being eliminated. 1990 qualifying saw them make the final stage of Oceania again, a 3-team playoff between themselves and familiar rivals New Zealand and Israel. On April 16th, 1989, Australia hosted the final match of qualifying against Israel. 1 point behind the Blues and Whites, the Aussies needed a win to make it to the Intercontinental Playoff. However, with the Nyanga still laughing somewhere, they would concede in the 40th minute, only managing an equalizer in the 88th minute to be eliminated from World Cup contention in front of 40,000 fans in Melbourne. Come 1994 qualifying, 20 years after their only qualification, the team from Down Under were determined to make it to America for the next edition of the tournament. Israel would no longer take part in Oceania qualifying after becoming members of UEFA, allowing Australia to cleanly sweep through the region and enter a playoff against Canada. After the first match in Edmonton, Australia would fall 2-1, taking the lead off an own goal but letting up 2 goals 7 minutes apart in the second half. With the return leg in Sydney, a nervous feeling filled the air as the change of the World Cup was slipping away as the game was tied 1-1, but Australia were in need of another goal to tie the game on aggregate. Now in the 77th minute, they needed anything to keep their hopes alive. Durakovic headed past Craig Force to tie the game, eventually sending the match to penalties. After both scoring their first attempts, Canada missed the next 2, giving Farina the chance to put Australia through. They did it. They won their playoff. The curse is broken. Australia is heading to America, baby. Woo! Oh, wait, what's that? That was just the first round of Intercontinental qualifying? They still need to beat Argentina over 2 legs? Well, they may be the underdogs, but they still got a shot. They didn't stand a chance. Despite a valiant 1-1 draw at home in the first leg, they lose the second leg in Argentina 1-0, losing 2-1 in aggregate to the South American Giants. The year is now 1997. Australia cruised for Oceania again and meet Iran in the Intercontinental Playoff. Winner over 2 legs qualified. The first leg took place in Tehran, Iran on November 22nd in front of a packed 128,000 fans at the Azadi Stadium. But in spite of the large crowd, Australia scored the opening goal in the 19th minute to secure a 1-1 draw away, leading on away goals heading into the second leg. Now November 29th in Melbourne, Australia are cruising to victory with Vidmar scoring the 48th minute to give the Socceroos a 2-0 lead and a 3-1 lead on aggregate and on the verge of finally breaking their curse. Now in the 72nd minute, first goal scorer Kirill gets booked in controversial fashion, but that's fine. As long as they remain composed, they'll make it through.
Given a little bit too much room and time to turn. Ali Daei going through, danger here, Iran forward again. 2 lunging, saving Tekens, they've lost the ball, Bosnich is out of his goal!
Okay, well they just need to hold on a bit more and they'll be home free.
The danger for Australia here, the flag's down! It's an equaliser for Iran! 2-2 here!
Oh my god. Australia collapsed, allowing 2 goals in 4 minutes and ended the game 3-3 on aggregate at full time. Well, at least they can try and win extra time or penalties, right? Well, remember what I said about Australia leading on away goals? Well, 2 away goals is greater than 1. So despite Australia being one of only 3 teams in all World Cup qualification to go undefeated, they were eliminated in front of a stunned 85,000 fans packed in the Melbourne cricket grounds. Coach Terry Venables said it was one of the saddest sporting moments of my life, while commentator Johnny Warren cried on air after the final whistle blew as the curse grew even more of a stranglehold over Australian soccer. Now 2001, the usual song and dance commenced of Australia dominating Oceania as they made it to another intercontinental playoff, this time in Uruguay. In front of almost 85,000 fans in Melbourne, Muscat converted a penalty in the 70th minute to give Australia the victory and lead going to the second leg in Uruguay. Now just one match away, the Aussies just need to hold on for another 90 minutes and they'll make it to the 2002 World Cup. Upon arriving in Uruguay, they were harassed by Uruguayan supporters at the airport, getting spat on and punches thrown at them. But if they kept their composure and hold on in the actual game, they would reach the World Cup.
Oh, this is pressure, one-on-one, Silva on Murphy! It's all over for Australia, Morales. And that's it!
They collapsed and lost 3-0 in Montevideo. In 2002, previously mentioned player and commentator Johnny Warren released his autobiography, which gave more exposure to the alleged curse plaguing the Australian national team's attempt to qualify for the World Cup. One such man that happened to read about it was Johnny Saffron, an Australian media personality in pre-production of his next documentary series, John Saffron vs. God. He would later talk to Warren about the curse, and after seeing how much he believed in it, Saffron and his team agreed to travel to Mozambique for a show to undo the curse. Arriving in Mozambique, they met 2 Nyangas named Paulinho and Miriam. Paulinho channeled the spirit of the now long-dead Nyanga who placed the curse, performing a ritual that included covering saffron and chicken blood to lift the curse that had been placed. Later returning to Australia, Saffron and Warren would go to Sydney's Olympic Stadium with a special clay to perform the second half of the ritual. The series would premiere in 2004, and Warren would sadly die in November of that year at the age of 61, unable to see if his beloved Socceroos would break the curse. November 12, 2005. Australia cruised through Oceania once again, beating the Solomon Islands 9-1 on aggregate in the final round, advancing to their 5th intercontinental playoff. They now find themselves in a familiar place for the first leg, Montevideo, Uruguay. Now with what is considered their golden generation and the supposed curse lifted, they entered the match hoping to end its World Cup drought. They lose 1-0 to Rodriguez' goal in the 37th minute. However, the tie was not out of reach as they returned to Australia 4 days later on November 16, 2005. 35 minutes in, Bresciano breaks the deadlock, tying the game 1-1 on aggregate. Neither team could break through afterwards, with the match remaining tied even after extra time. Penalties were needed in front of a rapturous 83,000 fans at Telstra Stadium in Sydney. QL kicks first for Australia.
It's Fabian Carini, first penalty Australia. Goal.
He slots it home. Rodriguez, Uruguay's hero in the previous game, looks to respond.
Saved by Schwarzer!
Great
He's
save.
done it again! In the shootout, Mark Schwarzer is the hero for Australia.
But his attempted save. Both teams would score the next 2, making it 3-2 on penalties for Australia. But Viduka steps up. If he scores, Uruguay needs to score after to even have a chance of staying alive.
Graham Arnold can't look. Viduka. Oh, he's put it wide.
However, he pulls it wide left. Zalieta now has the chance to tie it up and make it effectively sudden death.
Salageta. Oh,
Big
great save again by
It's
Schwarzer.
a huge save.
Wonderful save.
However, Mike Schwarzer gets his right and saves his second penalty of the match. Aloisi now steps up as Australia's 5th shooter. If he converts, the drought is over.
John.
Here's Aloisi for a place in the World Cup.
For us.
He scored! Australia have done it!
Come on!
John Aloisi, the Confederations Cup hero, has done it in the biggest game of
36 years after the curse was placed, Australia qualified for the first World Cup since 1974, roughly 1 year after Warren's passing. Saffron would be flooded with emails saying their thanks for breaking the curse. Their second attempt at the World Cup would go much better, scoring the first goal and winning their first match in the group stage, eventually finishing second behind Brazil. Their fortunes would end in the round of 16, falling to eventual champions Italy after conceding a late penalty. Since 2006, Australia has changed from Oceania to the Asian Federation, qualifying for the World Cup every time since and most recently matching their best performance at the 2022 World Cup by reaching the last 16. It's hard to say if the curse ever really did exist, however if it did, it's fair to say at this point the curse has been lifted. Hope you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, and with all that said, Ptok out.